Hello, everyone. I am Melinda Brianna Epler, founder and CEO of Change Catalyst and author of How to Be an Ally. I'm your host of Leading with Empathy and Allyship. Welcome. Allyship is about learning, showing empathy, and taking action. That process often includes learning, unlearning, and relearning, then building empathy for people with different experiences, and above all, taking consistent action. So each week we'll learn from somebody new. Please be open to new ways of thinking and understanding. You can learn more about my work and sign up to join us for a live recording at ally.cc. Let's get started. Hello, everyone. Today, our guest is Gabriela de Queiroz, Principal Cloud Advocate Manager at Microsoft, where she leads the Global Education Advocacy team focused on AI, machine learning, and data science. She's also the founder of Our Ladies, a worldwide organization promoting diversity in the R community, and AI Inclusive, a global organization that is helping increase the representation and participation of minorities in artificial intelligence. Today, we'll be talking about the importance of community in creating access and opportunity. We'll discuss what it means to be an advocate, how we build communities, and what it takes to really lead the change and reduce the global gap in access and opportunity. So welcome, Gabriela.
Thank you, Melinda. Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm so happy to be here and to be talking about something that is very close to my heart that I love to talk about.
Awesome. Me too. I'm really excited about our conversation today. And before we jump in, let's first, for our YouTube audience, describe ourselves for anybody who's blind or low vision. And so I'll start. I'm a white woman with long red and blonde hair. I'm wearing glasses and a long sleeve turquoise shirt. And in my background on my right side is a tall, narrow bookshelf that has a plant cascading on it and some books. And on the other side, plants surround my book, How to Be an Ally, which has a bright orange cover.
And I am a white woman, a Latina, and I'm wearing a black hoodie, and my hair is kind of like grayish nowadays. And on my background, you can see there is a very bright green wall, 2 pictures, and a bookcase with several books, and also a lamp.
Awesome. Thank you. We have 2 interpreters today with us. Our ASL interpreters today are Isabella and Nora from our partners at Interpreter Now, and you can learn more about them at interpreter-now.com. All right, Gabriela, let's talk about you and your story first to begin. Can you start with where you grew up and make your way to how you ended up doing the work that you do now?
Awesome. Yeah. So I'm from Brazil. So I was born and raised in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro. And we speak Portuguese. We don't speak Spanish. We speak Portuguese is our main language. And I was the younger of 4 siblings. So all my siblings are much older than I. And I grew up like any kids, like playing and doing sports. I was very active. I really liked to be outside and playing with others. I would watch some TV here and there. Not a very good student, to be honest, growing up. But there was a very big part of me that was like always be surrounded by people, like either family or friends or people that I played with. And growing up, it was interesting, like the variety of things that I got exposed. And after going to high school, I went to do my bachelor degree. I had a lot of like ups and downs and trying different things until to the point where I finished my studies in statistics. And then I was working with statistics, and then I moved to work with epidemiology. Then I did a master's in epidemiology where my focus was on air pollution. So how air pollution affects people's health. So I was dealing with public health data, but then applying all my statistics knowledge and make models and create outcomes and and like inform the population around about the issues around air pollution. And then after I finished my master's is when I came to the US. So in 2012, I came to the US to do another master's, now back to statistics. And my main goal was very interesting because my main goal when I came as a master's student was to learn how to speak in English the technical terms that I already knew in Portuguese. So it was not much to add more like much knowledge per se, but more like to know how to speak the language in more like technology terms. Because we all know that, especially in this area of like data science and machine learning and AI, there are a lot of like terminologies that you need to be aware. So it's kind of like learning another language. Like you learn English, and then you also learn another language which is very specific to this field. And then after like finishing my master's, I did work for like different companies, small companies and big, large corporations like Microsoft, IBM, as a data scientist, and then as a leader, as a manager. And that's pretty much like my summary of like my story.
Awesome. And so you are doing a lot of incredible work as an advocate and a lot. When did you start the two organizations that you founded?
Yeah, and that's an awesome question. So it all started when I moved from Brazil to San Francisco, like the center of technology. So many things happening. And then when I got here as a student, not a lot of money, right? So like very, very limited budget. I found out something called Meetup where you would sign up and go to this event in person, right? After work hours in the night, during the night. And then I was so amazed by how much knowledge and things that were happening in this vibrant city, like all these different technologies and terminologies, and like people doing amazing work. And I signed up to different meetups. I signed up to a meetup on machine learning, on data science, data visualization, on like all these different technologies and buzzwords that were around us back then. And I was going every night. And I like to joke that was kind of like going to the Disneyland where you look to one side or look to the other side, and there is all these different options, and you don't know what to do. If I should go to this meetup or this other meetup, should I learn this? Should I learn that? So many options. So I was amazed about like the opportunities that we had and so much knowledge for free. So I started going to these meetups, and I think it makes sense to talk about the path on like how the organizations came together, because it's all very much related. And then I started going to these meetups every night, and then I joke that it's like a Disneyland, but also like I was getting knowledge for free. Like people were there after work hours, giving back to the community, like giving their knowledge to us in the audience. And the other fun fact, it was like always they had dinner. So for me as a student was the best of the worlds, where I had knowledge for free and food for free. So I would go, I would go every night, and I was always paying attention. Like people are giving their time, giving their knowledge for free, and it in my mind it was like a cycle, right? You are receiving, you are getting all of this, you are providing opportunity for everybody that is coming to these events. And then you have to do the same thing. So it's a cycle. So you get, you give back, you get, you give back. And that's what I always thought, right? It's like you get for free, or you pay for it to give back, especially when it's free, like when people are doing that from the heart. Then I got to a point where I was like, okay, I think now it's my time to give back. Is there anything that I can give back after getting so much? And then I started to think, what are some of the options? What are some of the things that I think I'm good at that I can give back? And then I thought, well, I know a programming language called R. Why don't I do something around the R language? That is one of the things that I'm passionate about. And there is this whole explosion on data and data science. And R is one of the languages used for analyzing data. But then another thought, I didn't want to do like a general group, because one of the things that I realized by going to these events was one, as a woman, as a foreign, as someone from the outside, I didn't feel welcome in those places. I didn't feel like there were people like me. The opposite. I felt the crowd, the audience was all the same, all white guys.
Mm. Mm.
So then I'm like, okay, I don't want to feel the same feeling that I was feeling when I went to these meetups where I didn't feel like this sense of community. I was very in the corner and I felt like, what about if I do something different? What about if I create something, if I give back and I create something that is going to be inclusive, that is going to be friendly, that it's going to be diverse? And that's how the first community came together, which is called Our Ladies. That was the first organization where I was giving back some of the knowledge that I had, but also creating this safe environment for others to learn to build this community together. And it was kind of, to be honest, it was kind of like a something very individual, like an individual thought, because I didn't have this community and I wanted a community for me to feel included. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to create a community for me. And then that's how it all came together.
I love that. I love that. I believe that advocacy is a huge piece of allyship, right? And this idea of giving back once I love that idea of that cycle that, we receive support, we receive guidance, we receive free information. And then when we're ready, we give back, we turn it back over. And perhaps we do that in a little bit of a different way, like you did. We look at, well, who is this not reaching? How can I help reach them? How can I change the ecosystem so that more people feel like they belong in that space? And I love that. I love that. So with the two organizations that you created, can you talk a little bit about what the problem is that you're working to solve? I mean, in terms of gender, that's pretty clear. When it comes to looking at a global community, I think there's a different layer on top of that as well. Can you talk about that a bit?
Yeah, absolutely. And so there is, of course, the gender that we all talk about. And it was the big, like I would say back then, 10 years ago, was the main focus. It was all about gender. And then I think it was even further, like the reach was further than that. Like the reach was further than that in the sense of like we were reaching out underserved communities. So communities that they didn't have the basics, like the basic infrastructure or the basic knowledge to go and advance in their career or to get into the data science or AI or machine learning field, right? So we were empowering those communities as well on getting access to the resources that we, as someone being in the US, that we had, right? So it was beyond, in that sense, was beyond the gender, or it was much more than that. The reach was much more than that. And with the other organization, AI Inclusive, it's the same way. It was, I started that organization 7 years later, but I took a lot of like my learning from Our Ladies to create this other community. The only, I would say, difference was one, it was language agnostic, like we were not related to one programming language, but any language. But it was very interesting and timely important because there was back then in 2019, we were in this center of like discussion around AI and AI discrimination and all the problems that AI were causing, and the majority of population were not aware. The majority of population that were going to be suffering because of the AI technology, they were not aware. They thought that AI and the implications were something very futuristic, like something that were not part of their lives at all. And with AI Inclusive, one of the things that we did was like, hey, this is what is happening now. This is affecting you now. And if it's not, it's probably going to be affecting you in the very near future. So you should be aware.
Yeah. And for anybody who's interested in learning a little bit more about that too, episode 92 with Lydia XD Brown, we talked about the impact of surveillance tech and AI on marginalized populations too. It's really, really important. And so what you're doing is not only creating that awareness, but also getting folks involved in the creation of it as well, right?
Absolutely. Yes. We need them to be with us in this journey. Like that's one of the issues that we had is like because we didn't have a diverse population working on the creation of those algorithms and things went in a very bad way. So we need to bring all these communities with us in this journey.
Yeah. There are lots of examples of that out in the world, and the one, the driverless cars that don't see Black people on the road at night, the water faucet, the automatic water faucets that only see certain skin tones, and the list goes on and on. The algorithms the Google algorithms, went awry. So many different things happened and have continued to happen as a result of this. Yeah. Let's talk about community. Let's talk about community and what that means to you. What does community mean to you? Why is it important to you?
It's kind of like cheesy to say, but it means everything, right? Everything that is related or with or for community is a big chunk or a big piece of who I am, and there is no way that I would be where I am today, to be the person that I am today without the communities that surrounded me, either by creating the communities or being with communities. So if you think about like how lonely the journey can be, and I'm very much talking right now about like the whole journey of like your career, but even if you think about other things like if when we all get older, it's so important to have this community for us to have like a better life. It's all well known, and there is data backing this up. But when I talk about like the community, I'm talking more about the career kind of aspect. And there are so many great stories, not only by myself, but the stories that I heard of like because of I was inserted or because of I was with this community, I had the strength to keep going and change my career, or I felt like I belonged here. So I had this network of people that were like me or that had things to add to myself that made me knowledgeable or gave me strength to change, which we all know how hard it is to do any change by yourself if you don't have 1, 2, 3, 20 people around you, surrounded you.
Yeah, absolutely. And community can make such a difference in your career. You talked a little bit about that, but how has community made a difference for you or not made a difference for you?
Yeah, it made from like people knowing my work, when I was changing jobs or when I was like feeling down because something happened and I didn't have anyone at work to talk. I had my community where I know that I would trust on them and I would share. There was one example was I was in this team of like engineers and I was the only data scientist, and they couldn't understand my work. Like their mindset was very different from my mindset, from my training. And I felt so lonely that I didn't have anyone to talk about the problems or like the challenges that I was facing inside my job. There was no one that I could relate. So I went back to my community and said, this is what is happening. What do you all think about this? And I had so many great support and ideas and suggestions, and we brainstormed together. And I'm like, wow, I'm so happy that I have this community, because otherwise I would be lost in this job, or like maybe I would not have the confidence to change or to do any changes inside this particular job. So that was one example. Like I cannot imagine being in this journey by myself without any support. And going back to the community, like we all know, like there is this saying that it takes a village to raise a child, for example. And it takes a community to make us change whatever change we want to have. which is very similar. The village and the community is so much similar in so many aspects.
Yeah, absolutely. And creating communities where people feel they belong, they're safe, and they feel like they belong is the critical piece of that too. Is a critical piece of that too, right? That you can have a community where you still feel like you're on the periphery and you're not going to get the same experiences as if you feel like you truly belong within that community. Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, what kind of impact have you seen as you look at people who have been in your program? So, on the lives, their careers, what kind of impact are you seeing?
Yeah, there is like a few stories, but one story that I always remember is this person that she was a stay-home mom for over a decade, and she was raising her child by herself, and then she had to stop her full-time job. She was doing a few things here and there, and she really wanted to go and get a job in data science. And then she found out about this community. She found out that there was a chapter. So we are, the organization, we have chapters, and the chapters are based in cities. So she found out that there was this group. And then she found out that there was a chapter near her house. And she started going and going. She was like, first of all, I had no idea what they were talking about, but I felt so part of the community, even though it seemed that I had no technical knowledge at all, but I felt so welcomed in that community that I'm like, okay, I'm going to stick with this and I'm going to learn. And I'm sure that I'm going to succeed here because I have this community by my side. So she started going to the events to the point where she was like, okay, I've been getting so much. I want to give back. She became a chapter leader. And then after a while, going to this event, she got a job. So after, again, 10 plus a year at home, she got a job. I think it was at Disney first, in a data related job. And she's been going up the ladder since then. And I felt it was so inspiring because can you she see the shift that she made with the support of the community. There were other examples of stories on places where more remote cities where they don't have, as I mentioned, the infrastructure or the basic, and they would get together, the woman would get together, and they all had, I remember this picture where they all had babies, and they went to this place to learn about the R language or the data science piece of it. And in the back of the room, they had their partners taking care of the child while they were learning this technology. And I felt that was so empowering, that they also had this community over there, their partners over there, helping them during this time so they could get upskilled on their careers or their lives. And it was so empowering to see that when someone shared the picture, I was like, wow, this is amazing. And they didn't have computers. They didn't have computers, even though the technology is its own computer. They didn't have computers. They had a whiteboard, a board, and they had paper and pen. And I was like, this is motivation. This is the power. This is the power of communities. This is how communities can change their lives.
Right, right. And that job at Disney creates a whole new wealth generation within the family, within the community, and hopefully they are also giving back in the future as well. So it really can fundamentally shift individual lives, communities around us, neighborhoods, and also our technology as well, right? Because that knowledge and experience is essential to creating truly inclusive technology.
Yeah, and one another interesting point that I saw is that there are some places that are so hard for us to reach, so hard that you cannot reach unless you have someone that belongs to that particular community. So in another example is like for our ladies, we had chapters in these very small cities that we had no idea that we were there, but because someone knew that someone, like it was kind of like a passing this word about this community, that they were like, oh, we should have something over here, even though we have no connection with the outside world. But I get what this community is trying to do. Let's replicate that in our community. So we were like, I think the impact was even broader than what we can see.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure. And who knows moving forward how many people we've inspired to then give back as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to ask you something here that, I really believe that, and our research shows that advocacy is a key piece of allyship and of creating change and really creating diversity, equity, and inclusion broadly across our technology as well as in our cultures and in our communities. And what would you recommend to somebody who wants to give back, who wants to do something, but isn't really sure how to start?
That's great question. And let's say that you don't have to be very knowledgeable about something to give back. Anything matters. Like you have more to give back than you think. Because sometimes we think, oh no, I need to be an expert, or I need to be very knowledgeable about this, or I have to be in a different level, or like, but no, that's not true. Like everything that you know, anything that you know is worth it sharing with another person or giving back. So like anything matters, right? The same goes to the relationship. Sometimes people think, oh, I don't want to be a mentor, or I'm not ready to be a mentor, to give back as a mentor because I'm not there yet. I don't have enough knowledge to share with my mentee. And I'm like, you do. You have more than you think. And there are so many different ways that you can give back. So many, just by sharing your experience, your background, that's enough to give back or to share with someone else. And it's usually like a two side. It's not only one side. It's not like you are only giving back. You are receiving. With the work with the community, I would say that I got much more back than I gave. And we think that it's like a very tiring and it's exhausting. It can be, sure, but it's so little that you can give that it makes a huge impact on someone's life just by giving a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's amazing. And it's so true. I mean, when I think about the ways that people have supported me in the past and made a difference for me in my life, it's been like an action that took, something that they said in that moment, or an action that took them 5, maybe 10 minutes, right? It's not a big amount of time necessarily. You don't, starting a program isn't amazing. And you and I have both done that, but you can also give back in so many other ways that can make a significant impact in somebody's life.
Exactly. And I am a huge believer that you lead by example. Like we as a leader, we talk a lot about this, lead by example. And then this is one way of like, you are giving an example to your community or to your employees or to your mentees or to the people you manage. You are showing them the value, and hopefully, like my hope is like they will do the same, like they will pass this forward to the new generation or to other people.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you talked about what you've received. You mentioned that. Can you talk a little bit more about what have you received and then how have you taken that back to your teams as well?
Yeah, so all the stories, and when I see someone sharing their stories or like their achievements or how the community change the way that they think, or like how the communities change their lives, this is like what I feel. It's like, oh yes, this is what I was hoping for. Or like when they come to me and say, hey, Gabriela, this is the best community ever. I've never felt so much included than I feel in this community, especially when it's coming from specific communities and people that never felt this sense of community before. So this is huge for me, like that I'm moving the needle a little bit. So any story that I hear, it can be a very big story or even something that I feel comfortable by being in this place. That is the biggest reward for me. And I bring all my learnings, all my community learnings to my teams, as well as making sure that I'm hearing and listening to them, that I'm hearing all their voices, that when I'm building a team, my team is diverse, that they feel included, make sure that I have the safe space for them as well, that they feel safe to share and to talk. So many learnings that I got from the community that it reflects in my work today, that just now I'm seeing, oh, wow, this is all the learnings that I got throughout the years because of my work with communities. And I feel like I'm a better manager, I'm a better leader because of the work and the learnings that I had with building the communities.
And can I ask you, for managers and leaders who are working with global teams, they may be working with people at different regions they never even been to and don't know a lot about. What are some learnings that you have gained that you might share with them in terms of working with global teams?
Yeah, and my team nowadays is very global. Like I have people from different places, like Africa, Italy, UK, US, South America. So it's all over. And I would say the first thing is like curiosity, like be curious about the place or where they are, and listen and try to have this conversation, because there are so many things that we don't know, so many different things, that it's cultural, that you don't know because you were not there. One example, again, that we learned with the community is Our Ladies is more focused on gender minorities. And in some places, they could not say this, that we have a focus. That was kind of like against the law or not culturally accepted. So they had to rephrase the mission of the group to something else, because they could not say, oh, this is the focus is more on this group or that group. So there are a lot of like learnings from just being exposed to all these different communities that were in places that we had no idea because we were in this other part of the world. And going back to being a manager in a global team, again, curiosity, like trying to be curious and to listen what people in your team has to offer, instead of like you coming with our very biased US centric vision on how things work. A total unrelated, related kind of like example that I was thinking now is I was talking to my team about a new tool. And I was like, oh, this tool is great because you just need to connect to the internet, and then you don't have to do any setup. You just need a computer and then the internet, and then you can start your work. And then someone came to me and said, but Gabriela, this is not going to work here. And I'm like, why not? You only need the internet and a computer. Oh, our internet is not reliable. We cannot rely on internet to do the work. And I'm like, yes, of course. Right. So like sometimes even myself, with the experience of coming from the place that I came from, sometimes I forget. And I'm so glad that I have these other people in my team that they feel safe to tell me that.
Absolutely. So creating that safe space for people to come back and say, wait a minute. Yeah, is a key piece of being an inclusive leader too, right?
Yeah,
being open to
exactly.
that feedback. Yeah. Anything else that you have noticed, or any other recommendations for when working with a global team?
Yes, there was another thing that I have been doing right now with my team, and we do every 6 months, we go for this, which is something that we call team agreements or guidelines. And like, what are the things that we should do as a team? What are kind of like let's say, agreements that we have in terms of like meetings and time zones, especially because we have people from all over the world, is like, what about time zones? Respect their time offs, how they like to be called, like what are the pronouns? Maybe you need more focus time, so please block your calendar because I need some time that I need to be focused and no one can interrupt me. So we have this team agreement that we do every 6 months where every person on the team has a say, and we agree as a team, hey, for the next 6 months, this is our agreement. We are going to to do our best to follow these agreements. And it's something that is been working very well with us. And we feel like, at least from the feedback that I get, that they feel that they are heard and they are respected.
I love that. That's fantastic. So it's sort of like it's an agreement. It's like when I'm doing a workshop, we have ground rules, or we have a mutual agreement at the beginning of a workshop too. This is our kind of protocol for working together. I love it.
Yeah, exactly. And also, like, it's not like a forever. It's like every 6 months, and it can be even less than that. We go over again to make sure that it's still true, it's still applicable to everybody. If there is any change or anything that you're like, oh, this didn't work, let's change. So it's also like a way for us to have this open dialogue where we can change things. It's like not written in the stone, like it's not forever, but it's something that is ongoing, and we can change. We can try, and if it doesn't work, we can try again, and we can adjust.
I love that. Those two pieces were so powerful. Is there anything else that you can think of that might be useful?
Not that I can think of. I can say that it's a big challenge leading a global team, and you have to change your mindset. Instead of, like, you know that it's going to be very rare the times where you have everybody together as a team, but make sure that you have some overlap in terms of, like, times where you can see your team face to face, because it's so important. But then you have also, like, this other side that you have to learn how to work async, where you have a lot of documents. So there is a lot of writings, much more writings than this face-to-face interaction. But just make sure that you don't miss the face-to-face interaction. It's so important. This one-on-one time, or the time with your team as a whole, so they feel part of a team, instead of, like, feeling, oh, because I'm here in this part of the world, I'm totally excluded. No, we as a leader, we need to make sure that we are including everybody all the time.
Awesome. A follow-up question. You mentioned that your team gave you that feedback. Can you think of, like, as a manager, how you open yourself up to that feedback, how you let your team know that create that safe space for doing that?
Yeah, I start by being vulnerable. I'm very vulnerable with my teams, and I try to show them that I'm a human, that I have my meltdowns, or I have times where I'm so all over that I need some quiet time, or that I need to take a break, or that I need to go for a walk, or that I have to take care of my family. So I'm very vocal and transparent on the things that are happening with me, so they feel like, oh yeah, so Gabriela, so she is going through this. So I have it's kind of like I'm giving permission to my team to have the same things. In a way, it's like I'm showing them that they can also have or be in similar situations, so they don't have to hide, because I'm not hiding, and I'm a leader, where usually we think that leaders are like, no problems. They don't have problems. They don't have to do many things at the same time. They have a village helping them. And that's not true most of the time. So I try to show them that I have problems, that I fail, that I do not succeed all the time, that I'm insecure, that my confidence is not every time high. And I feel that it gives them the permission to show or to bring their whole self to work, and they feel comfortable with this, and sharing their thoughts, and sharing giving me feedback. They give me very true feedback. And I learned to take the feedback, to pause, to listen. And then if there is anything that I want to say, I take this pause and then I say something. But it's more like I take all the feedback as something that is constructive, that it's coming from a good place, and that I will do something about it. And I'm curious to learn more. Tell me more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it. And I think that what we talked about at the beginning with you developing these communities of practice and kind of building access and opportunity. And you're also building a community with your team as well. It's a global community that where you're creating a safe space for people to be whoever they are, and to contribute to the rules, the ground rules, or the mutual agreement together, that really drives how you work together, and that you're creating a safe space for people to be vulnerable and to give feedback to one another and to you as a leader. I think that sense of community is coming through in your team work as well.
Yeah. And it's interesting because my role now at Microsoft, I work with students. So I work with and for students and educators. And one of the core things that we do is to create this community for students. So it's so interesting because it's like a full circle. Like now I'm working with students and creating this community where they feel like they are part of like a place that they belong. It's global, so we have students from all over. We work with students from all over the place, and the core is like having this community where they can learn, where we can share our knowledge, where they can upskill and get into this fields, and get a job. So it's so interesting to see how things come together, and without like even like planning that much, the community is somehow included as part of my full-time job, right? So it's so interesting to see, like, as I navigate and we navigate throughout our career, there is one aspect that comes with us no matter where we go.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that as a leader, and also you founded two different organizations, that you're doing a lot, and a part of being an inclusive leader, being an advocate, really driving change across the ecosystem. It takes energy, and it takes emotional as well as cognitive work as well. And so I want to ask you, just how do you take care of yourself? What are the ways that you make sure you don't get depleted, and that you still that you're replenishing?
Yes, I've been better and better with this as I think I get older, is making sure that I have time for myself, that I'm building my resilience, that I have enough on my tank, so then I can give back the best of me. So it's something that I'm very mindful that before giving back, I need to refuel myself so I have something to give back. Otherwise, I don't have anything to give back or to give. And the community work or the work with people, it's something that energizes me. So even though there is this drain, it's very draining to deal with people, to be a manager, to be a leader, because there are a lot of like hard conversations, and you are dealing with emotions as well. There is this other aspect that kind of like energizes me, that it's like leading and unblocking people and empowering people. So I would say, luckily, one side can balance the other as well. So it's not like draining, that I'm taking all my energy and I'm like totally out of energy. It's the other way. It's also like brings me energy and brings me inspiration to keep going.
I love it. So this show is focused on creating a space for people to learn and then to take action. And so I want to ask you, as after folks listen or watch this episode, what action would you like them to take?
I would say look around, see some opportunities because again, there are plenty opportunities of things that you can give back. You can start small. You can become volunteer in some organization. All this, the organizations that I mentioned, for example, they are all volunteer based. So we need volunteers. We need people to help us to keep spreading the knowledge, and then so we need more people to be on this journey with us. So look around, see what are the opportunities that there are. If you cannot find, just ask around because there is always someone needing something that you can offer. So go to, I don't have any specific website, but if there is anything any topic or anything that you are passionate about, this is one of the easiest way to give back. If there is something that you care, go and see if there is any place that you can give or you can help on that one. I feel like listening to your podcast and your book is like a great way for you to be more knowledgeable and to learn. And sometimes like people are not doing because they are bad people, because they don't have exposure or they don't know about it. So the more you get exposed to all these different environments and to different people from different backgrounds, the more you can be more knowledgeable and more, I would say it's also like more that you can understand what are the gaps that you have. So get exposed, try to get out of your small world and try to explore things that you are not aware, that you don't know that exist. Try to get more exposure on that.
I love it. Where can people learn more about you and your work?
Yeah, so I have a website, and then it's k-roz.com, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. I'm all over the social media. And at Microsoft, you can look for Student Hub is a place where students can come and find materials to use, and there's different paths if you're a student. But for myself, it's like any place in the social media world, I'm there.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, Gabriela.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, appreciate you sharing your knowledge and experience.
Thank you.
All right, everyone, please do take action as a result of listening to this, and see you next week. We'll share resources and a transcript from this discussion at ally.cc. And please make sure to subscribe to our channel and rate this show. It makes a difference for us. Thank you for being part of our community. And remember, the more we take action, the more we grow as humans and as leaders, and the more we transform our communities. So what action will you take today? Let us know your actions by emailing podcast@changecatalyst.co or reaching out on social media. And Leading with Empathy and Allyship is a show by Change Catalyst where we build inclusive innovation through training, consulting, and events. You can learn more about us at changecatalyst.co. So let's keep building allyship across our communities and around the world. Thank you for listening.